Hi friends, welcome to Krako's video series. I'm Sayali Ma'am. In this particular video, I just wanted to distill down all the knowledge that I have had, all the experience that I've had in the last 10 years or so, taking CAT and preparing students for CAT. Whatever I have learned, I have tried to distill it down into this video, especially from the perspective of beginners, those who don't know anything about CAT and who don't understand what exactly it means to prepare for CAT and what are the hidden traps and the mistakes a lot of students end up doing. So I wanted to give you the idea of what is important and what are the mistakes that you should definitely avoid. So let's get started. We'll go through each of these sections. So as you already know, there are three sections: quant, LRDI and verbal. So we'll start with the quant section. Now the important things that you should know about the quant section are, firstly, a lot of people who are coming in CAT 2024 would be looking at CAT 2023 and then they would look at the quant section and be like, there is no way I can solve this quant section. There's no point in me taking CAT 2024. This is too difficult. CAT 2023, the quant section was an aberration. A quant section this difficult had not been seen for over 15 years. So if you're making a decision based on CAT 2023, I'd say don't make a decision based on 1 year. If you take a look at the quant section from CAT 2022 3 slots or 2021 or 2020, you will see that the quant section was not this difficult. So if you're somebody who struggles with quant and who felt that there is no way you can solve the CAT 2023 quant, don't worry, that is an aberration. That is not a true representation of how difficult the quant section normally is in CAT. So do not make a decision based on it. The second most important thing that you have to remember is that whenever a section is harder, the scores become lesser. So it's kind of an auto-adjusting thing. If the section is easier, the scores are higher. If the section is harder, even single-digit scores become enough. So with that in mind, you should just remember that if a section appears difficult to you, it appears impossible to you, it will be difficult for a lot of students. So don't give up on CAT just because something seems difficult to you. Okay. The second thing that a lot of people need to know is that, see, when we give you the syllabus, okay, we tell you that arithmetic these many topics, algebra these many topics, geometry these many topics, then there are smaller topics, number systems, probability, and like functions, modern maths, all of these smaller topics are there. So when you see the syllabus, you feel that, okay, this is like equal, this is equal, this is equal, this is equal. I should equally prepare for all of them. I should equally distribute my time among all of these topics. That is the wrong way to look at it. The idea that you should realize is that while arithmetic might be 1 out of 10 topics, arithmetic is like 50% of the section. If you do well in arithmetic, you are going to get 50% of the section right. The arithmetic is 50%, 40 to 50% of the section, and the remaining section is remaining 50 to 60%. So if you get arithmetic right, most of your score is going to come from those particular questions. Again, arithmetic questions tend to be the easiest of the slot. This was not true in CAT 2024, but in general, if you want any kind of easy question or a sitter question, mostly it is going to come from the arithmetic topic. These are generally the questions which you can be reasonably sure of solving. You might take some extra time to solve. For example, if it's a difficult time, speed, distance question, you might take extra time. But I'm pretty certain with like basic formulas, you can solve most arithmetic questions. So remember, if you have, this is the building and you're like making a tower of your quant score as such, 60%, 50 to 60% is your arithmetic score. In fact, for most students who are under 90 percentile, arithmetic score or the score coming from arithmetic questions will be a good like 60-70% of his total score. Arithmetic is where you make your bulk of your marks as such. So treat it with that respect, treat it with that importance. You have to ace arithmetic, you have to know all the formulae and you have to practice like crazy from arithmetic. If you do that well, you will find that you are easily crossing the 90 and 95 percentile barrier for arithmetic. If you don't give adequate importance to arithmetic, you will be struggling in under 80 percentile for quant. That when you are struggling to even reach 80 percentile, That clearly shows that you have not given enough time to arithmetic. This is the single biggest mistake I've seen a lot of students do. They start with number systems. Number systems is not that important. Number systems, you'll hardly get one question out of 22. What is more important? You should do questions, or you should do practice of those questions that actually come very frequently in quad. So start with arithmetic, ace arithmetic. That is the most important thing that you should do. Now the second part is that when I said, okay, this is 40%, the second part, which is very important, is algebra and geometry. Algebra, if you consider arithmetic plus algebra or arithmetic plus geometry, it becomes around 60 to 65%. Each of them are around 20 to 25% of the remaining section. The remaining section, like you have number systems, all of that are basically, you will get one-off question as such. So algebra is like, algebra is the second biggest chunk. Geometry is the third biggest chunk. Each of them will give 3 to 4 questions, and then when combined with arithmetic, that would be, if you just do arithmetic and geometry well, you are clearing cutoffs. If you just do arithmetic and algebra well, you are clearing cutoffs. So remember that you have to do arithmetic very, very well. There is no alternative, there is no optionality there. But essentially, between algebra and geometry, you have to get very good at one of these two. If you are somebody who is from an engineering background, if you have done like advanced calculus, if you're comfortable with algebraic equations, I'd say spend that time on algebra, get very, very good at algebra, equations, polynomial equations, everything, get very good at algebra. If you're somebody who is from a non-engineering background and who struggles with algebra, try geometry. If you are struggling with algebra, you can do well in geometry, and if you do well in geometry, arithmetic plus geometry is a very successful combination. See, basically you need this one extra on top of arithmetic to get a good score. So you have to go say either or arithmetic or geometry. Now it's not either or. Those who are going to score like 99.99 percentile will do well in both. I'm just saying that you have to get at least one of these two should become a strength along with arithmetic. If arithmetic is a strength, algebra is a strength, you're clearing cutoffs. If arithmetic is a strength, geometry is a strength, you're clearing cutoffs. If arithmetic is a strength, geometry is a strength, you will come in the 99.95 percentile range. So basically you have to at least get good at one of these two in addition to arithmetic. The other parts, which are like progressions and series, permutations and combinations, number systems, these are important. They definitely come. 1-2 questions come from all of these topics as such. But remember, that is the whole deal. 1 or 2 questions come. From arithmetic, there are like 9 questions in total. From algebra, there are 3-4 questions. From geometry, there are 3-4 questions. So you have to keep that in mind, and you have to basically factor that in how much time you spend practicing and even on concepts. When you're covering concepts, cover all the concepts. But when you're practicing, you have to be very, very careful of how you allot the time for practice. Now let's come to the question of leaving topics. A lot of students ask that, can I leave permutations and combinations? Can I leave modern maths? Can I leave logarithms? I would say that don't leave any topic. These are small topics. They are not small in terms of difficulty, or they are not small in terms of even formulas to remember, but essentially they are limited number of questions come from these topics. But sometimes what happens is that whenever students say that I'm going to leave logarithms, you will get a very easy question from logarithms, a sitter, and then you will be losing out on that because you have not done logarithms. Many times there are easy questions from many of the topics which are generally considered hard by a lot of students. So what should you do? You should cover concepts for all the topics. You should not leave any concept as such. That is the important thing to remember. Now, after you have covered concepts, okay, you have covered all the formulas, even from small topics, you have mugged up all the formulas. Then when you're practicing, you should say that I will practice more from arithmetic, I will practice more from algebra, I will practice more from geometry, I'll do some logarithms questions because it is important that I have some practice of logarithms. I should do some progressions and series questions because it is important to have some practice of that. So basically in such cases, if an easy progressions questions come, you know how to solve. If an easy logarithms questions comes, you know how to solve. There was an easy question on arithmetic geometric AGP, arithmetic and geometric progression, which a lot of students were not able to solve because they did not know the concept or a formula for it at all, and it was a direct formula for AGP as such. So all these small topics also give one-off questions, and when there are questions which you can easily solve by using a formula, you should not miss out on those 3 marks. Okay. Now one more thing that I would suggest, and this is especially true for like many times when you have complex calculations, especially related to say interest, rate of growth, etc., do not automatically jump for the calculator. A lot of students say that, okay, I have to calculate compound interest, rate of interest is 10%, it is for 10 years or it is for 4 years, I will keep multiplying 1.1, 1.1, 1.1 5 times. It is not needed. In many interest cases, what I see is that the left hand side and the right hand side cancel off. So do not directly jump to the calculator. Write down the equations. Only when you are left with the final calculation, okay, only when you are left with the final part, okay, numerator divided by denominator, then use the calculator. Do not start using the calculator from the very beginning of solving the question. You should use the calculator at the very end. If nothing is cancelling off, then open the calculator, because most of the time things will cancel off. And the reason why I tell you not to open the calculator is that many people don't realize that CAT's calculator is a very user unfriendly calculator. The user interface is not like the calculator you have on your phone or on like your laptop. The user interface for that calculator is very difficult to use. Pressing each number takes a lot of time. Now with that kind of a difficult interface, if you start using the calculator extensively, you will lose out on a lot of time. So calculator should only be used at the very final calculation when nothing is cancelling each other out. Okay, so these are the important things that you should remember in quant. Let's take a look at the important things that you should remember for LRDI. Now, LRDI is one of those sets where a lot of students struggle. Okay, I've seen smart students struggle, students who are weak in quant struggle, students who are strong in quant struggle, students who are strong in verbal struggle. A lot of like across the spectrum, this is like the nightmare section for a lot of students. Now the reason why it's a nightmare section is because it is a highly volatile section. Sometimes you will get 24 marks, sometimes you will get 7 marks, sometimes you will get 42 marks, sometimes you will get 11 marks. Now that kind of volatility of scores is not seen in quant. That kind of volatility of scores is not seen in verbal. Now because it is seen in LRDI section, a lot of people have a not I would say aversion, they have a fear of this section, and it is very valid why you should. Even I fear this particular section. I've taken CAT so many times, but this is the only section where I feel that if I mess this section up, my entire attempt is gone. This is that one section which can make and break your CAT this, because see, if you have practiced quant question, you more or less know how to solve questions, you will get a decent score. If you have solved a lot of RC sets, you will get a decent score in VARC. In LRDI, it's like you invest 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes in a set, and if you get stuck after those 20 minutes, you are left with like nothing at the end of 20 minutes. You have 0 questions done at the end of 20 minutes and you are going to panic. So there is a huge initial investment made, and there can be 0 return on it. So think of it in terms of business terms. Think of it that, okay, it's like having a quant is like, okay, a transaction. You make something, you sell it, you immediately get your money back. And if you are not successful in doing it, it's only the investment that is made in that one question is the only thing that you will lose. So you spend 2-3 minutes solving one question, you're not able to do it, you move on. Similarly with verbal also, with some RCs, if you are able to read and answer, it's quick enough. You can make that decision within 5 minutes. But in LRDI, you can't make that decision. You don't know even 10 minutes in or 15 minutes in whether you will be able to solve the LRDI set or not. Now, when that happens, what happens? You start getting panicky. It's like setting up a huge plant and you don't know whether you will be able to actually make any profit from that. So basically, it's like a intensive, takes a lot of time, and there is volatility. Now here basically the things that I have realized over time that actually make it feel less volatile, less risky, less prone to luck is basically remembering that there are a limited number of sets. If you have joined Krako's video series, please take a look at the LRDI overview. I have made a list of all the LRDI sets that have come in CAT 2023, the basic concept behind it, in CAT 2022, in CAT 2021 and so on. So what is the idea behind that? I basically try to identify what is the type of the set. Why do you identify what is the type of the set? Once you identify the type of the set, you know how you have to represent it. So when I say represent it is, so when you have a say circular arrangement, the representation will be drawing a circle. When you have a arrangement of attributes, you have to draw a table. So once you identify the set, then you identify the representation format. Once you know how to represent it, you have to essentially go through the information again and again and again to essentially convert that caselet, that huge amount of paragraphs of information into your desired representation format. So this process is essentially iteration of through the information to get the final results. Okay, so this is basically how you actually solve the LRDI set. Now, once when I have started actually figuring out what are the different types of set, I realized there are very few limited types of sets as such. So if you actually see the different year sets, you will see that arrangement comes very often. You will see that games and tournaments comes very often. You will see that like many types of sets keep repeating. Now the basic idea is that if these type of sets keep repeating, if you solve 10 arrangement sets, you can solve the 11th arrangement set, right? You will get good at it. Similarly, if you solve 10 games and tournament set, you can solve the 11th one, you will get good at it. So that's the basic idea that you should remember. Identify the set, realize, is this something that I can solve? Is this something that I have a lot of practice in? See, again, over here, when you identify the set or no, you will realize that should I solve this set? Yes. Should I solve the set? No. There will be a decision that you have to make. There are 4 sets that are there in the LRDI section. At best, you are going to solve 3 sets. Most commonly, you are going to solve 2 sets. If you solve 2 sets correctly, you are actually clearing the cutoff. So in such scenarios, of the 4 sets, you have to select which 2 sets you are going to solve. So when you read the set, you have to decide, am I going to solve this set? Am I not going to solve this set? Now, how do you make that decision? So once you start identifying the different types of sets, you will know that I am good at this set. I know, for example, that I am very good at arrangements, games and tournaments, and I know that I am very poor in enumeration type puzzles. What are enumeration type puzzles? The sum is equal to 26 and there are 4 numbers A, B, C, D where the sum is equal to 26 and they are between 1 to 9. Now, how many possibilities are there such that 4 numbers or 4 integers between 1 to 9 add up to 26? So then you have to say that if A is 9, B is 9, C is 9, okay, then it is exceeding 26. So I will say, okay, C is 8, then this will become 0, or C is 7 and this will become 0. Now this will be equal to 26. So basically you have to enumerate all the cases. I know that I am weak in those enumeration puzzles. Why do I know that? Because I know from experience that in many cases, I tend to like miss a particular case where I go through all the cases. I write down 15 possible cases, but there was a 16th case that I missed. When that happens, the entire puzzle can go wrong. So I know what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. And the basic idea is that once you identify those sets, you have to say that this set is my strength, this set is my weakness as such. And that is the basic idea you have to follow through. Now, one more thing that I have experienced is that enumeration of cases is difficult, and in enumeration of cases, remember that enumeration of cases kind of puzzle will come every single year. I'm yet to see one slot where enumeration is not required. Even in arrangement, there will be some amount of enumeration required. Okay, you have to say, okay, these 3 cases are present. So enumeration is one of the most common types of LRDI sets that come. And when you're doing the enumeration, remember, one mistake over here, the entire set goes wrong. So this is what you have to do very carefully, very methodically. So other things you can do quickly and you can actually run through the rules as such. But here you have to take like extra care and go through it twice. So make sure that you actually check, are these the only 6 cases possible? Are these the only 7 cases possible? Because if you make a mistake here, the entire puzzle goes down. Arrangement charts are your friends. This is something that I have learned. Arrangements questions are solvable. That is a skill that you can essentially gain over time. You solve 10 arrangements questions, the 11th becomes easier. You solve 20 arrangements questions, the 21st becomes much easier. That is not necessarily true for games and tournaments, because difficult games and tournaments can be difficult to solve because the entire context can be very different. Similarly, it's not true for certain questions like, say, scheduling. Scheduling also can be easy or it can be difficult, but suddenly by solving few scheduling sets, you will not become very good at scheduling. But the idea is that arrangement sets are like the kind of repetitive in nature. You solve 10 arrangement sets, 20 arrangement sets, you get a sense of how things can be arranged, how rules can be read, how rules can be used as such to arrange the items. So those are basically skills that are additive in nature. You can build on them. So once you start in your preparation, you will be a novice in arrangements. After solving some sets, you will be like intermediate and master in arrangements. There are some sets where irrespective of how many sets you solve, you never become a master. So basically, I've learned that arrangements are easy to master. Charts are by default one of the easiest sets that you can find in CAT. They didn't come in CAT 2023. but they came in CAT 2022 and 2021. If they reappear in CAT 2024, my advice to you is always do the chart set. Why do I say always do the chart set? It is by far the easiest set of the 4. One more thing that I have realized from experience is that the more offbeat that the set looks, the easier it is. Often the offbeatness of the set, basically it looks completely different from anything that you have done before. Just the difference of that puts off a lot of students, and they don't realize that the set is actually trivial. Most of these sets can actually be done under 10 minutes if you are able to overcome your initial surprise from the set. If you are able to overcome that initial shock value of the set, these sets generally tend to be the easiest. So this is something that I have learned from LRDI. Now let's take a look at VARC. So with VARC, with quant, I had mentioned that how arithmetic is like the basic foundation. You have to get arithmetic you have to do it very, very well. The same is true for reading comprehension, but in fact much more so. So for example, if you actually consider, and I go through the scores, I see how people are doing, how the toppers are doing, how those who are struggling at 80 percentile are doing, how those who are struggling at 70 percentile are doing. And I know that those who are actually doing above 90 percentile, most of their score comes from reading comprehension. You get a part of your score from VA, but a bulk of your score is coming from reading comprehension. There are exceptions, of course. There are some people who are very good at verbal ability. I will say that if you're good at verbal ability, good for you. Make sure that you attempt all verbal ability questions. But for a lot of students, verbal ability is actually a small part of their total score. That verbal ability score will be like 2 or 3 or 5 marks. The bulk of their score is in fact coming from reading comprehension. So if your bulk of your score is going to come from reading comprehension, what is the thing that you have to learn from that? You have to do very, 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 very well in reading comprehension, which means that you have to practice it a lot. The biggest mistake a lot of students make is that they only practice reading comprehension when they are taking a mock. They do not practice reading comprehension otherwise. They see no value in like solving reading comprehension sets. But those who do well in CAT have solved daily targets reading comprehensions every day. Those who do well in CAT solve reading comprehension sets from the study room. That practice matters a lot. If you want to do well in VARC, you have to solve reading comprehension sets, not just in a mock scenario, but in practice scenario. This is like the biggest key to success in this particular section as such. One thing that I would say that if you have seen our videos, I have mentioned a lot about active reading. What is active reading? Active reading is basically the ability to read a paragraph, summarize it, get the basic gist, the main point, and write it down. So whenever we are reading these days, right, I have realized that many students do not have the ability to stay focused during the while reading the passage. They read the passage, they lose track of what they have read, they read the next paragraph, they lose track, they go through the entire passage and they remember nothing. Okay, now this happens to me also, because when you are like half of your mind is here, half of your mind is somewhere else, you have to reread the passage constantly just to figure out, okay, what is there in the paragraph. To stop that kind of behavior, I enforce a basic rule that I follow, that when you read in reading comprehension, whenever you are reading a passage, read one paragraph and write down the main point. When you force yourself to write down the main point, think what is the main point. When you write it down, you become very good at understanding and summarizing what is there in the paragraph. This ability to get the gist of or the heart of the paragraph is extremely important. Without that, you are not understanding the paragraph. Without that, you can skim through the passage without understanding what it mentions as such. So please start active reading early. This might impact your attempt rate. A lot of students say that, okay, my accuracy has gone up, but now instead of doing 3 RCs, I am able to do only 1 RC. Initially, your attempt rate will go down. From 3 RCs, it might go down to 1 RC. But over time, as you keep following it, it will go back up. Why will it go back up? Because you will find it easier to do this over time. After like the first few couple of months of doing reading comprehension or active reading, it will become second nature to you. You will not need extra time to do active reading. It is something that you will do by default. Then you will find your attempt rate go back up. But start early. You need time to get good at it. You need time to improve at it such that it does not take up too much time in the actual exam. Now, when you are important thing to remember about para summary, how do you get the para summary answer right? See, there is no one clear answer for parasummary. There's no one correct option for parasummary. You should basically say that the parasummary should have this main point 1, and should have this main point 2. Now, once you recognize what is important in the paragraph, then you see the options. Don't see the options until you have listed down that this is important, this is important. Any correct option should have these 2 points. Then when you go to options A, B, C, D, first thing that you do through the, when you're going through option elimination is mark down anything which has a distortion. There will be at least one option which distorts what is given in the paragraph. So you can eliminate option based on distortion. Then look at the options and see which option does not have both points 1 and 2. There will be one option, say for example, A will cover only point 1, C will cover only point 2. Only one of the 4 options will have both points covered. So you will have MP1 and MP2 in option D. So basically when you go through A, say that it is incomplete, C is also incomplete, D is the only one which has all the points covered. Okay, so this is basically how you solve questions in parasummary. In parajumbles and OSC parajumbles, what I have realized is that what helps me improve the accuracy is that I write down everything. Whenever I find out a pair, say 3, 4 is a pair, I write it down. Okay, when I say that okay 3, 4 is a pair and it should be at the start of the sentence, then I write down the combinations possible. The remaining combinations are 3, 4, 1, 2 or 3, 4, 2, 1. Once you write down the combinations, the mental load on your head becomes lesser. Then you say that if it is 3, 4, 1, 2, let me read it in 3, 4, 1, 2. This, okay, it doesn't flow. This is probably wrong. Let me read the sentences in 3, 4, 2, 1. This. Okay, the paragraph flows. I'm sure 3, 4, 2, 1 is the answer. So basically, if you write down the options, the mental load that you have to remember, what comes after what, all of this becomes lesser. This is not something that you solve like quant. So a lot of people write nothing down when they are solving VA questions, verbal ability questions. Don't make that mistake. When you're solving verbal ability questions also, write down the main points that should be there in parasummary. Write down the possible combinations that should be there in parajumbles. It is important that you write things down that it becomes more concrete. It is not hazy or vague and you are less likely to make a mistake then. Okay, option elimination works better in para insertion. In para insertion, when you are trying to find the right place for the paragraph, where in the paragraph you can put the sentence, there will be clearly sentences or options where the sentence would break the flow of the paragraph. It would not make sense in the paragraph. The pronoun and antecedent would be separated, or the topic would be like, okay, topic is going over here, suddenly the sentence is on a different topic, then topic continues over here. So clearly when those kind of options are there, you should first begin by eliminating those options. Once you eliminate it, it becomes easier for you to figure out, okay, it is between 2 and 3, where should it go? Then you can realize that, okay, this has to come before this sentence so that it can continue further by expanding it. Then you will arrive at the right answer. But always begin with option elimination, because first identify where it will definitely not go. Then it becomes easier for you to identify where it should go. Okay. Now that I have covered all the important things that you should know, there are top 5 mistakes I see a lot of beginners make. This is a classic example of mistakes made by beginners. Watching a lot of concept videos but not practicing. This is something that I see a lot of students do. They are watching hours and hours of videos, like 4 hours of videos, 5 hours of videos. They are seeing somebody else solve the questions. I will tell you an example of this which would make it clearer. A lot of like solving questions or learning how to solve questions in CAT often is like, say, going to the gym and exercising. You will build muscles and you will get fit only if you exercise. If you watch somebody else exercise, you are not going to get any fitter. So the only way you can build your ability to solve questions is if you practice. If you don't practice, you gain nothing. Unless you try to solve a question yourself, you are not learning anything. If you watch somebody even for hours solving questions, you learn nothing. The only real learning that happens is when you see somebody solve, you stop that video and you try to solve it. Once you try to solve it, if you are not able to solve, continue with that video. If you are able to solve, you have learned something new. The learning only happens when you begin to solve. It does not happen when you do not solve yourself. So the most important thing that I would say is that less videos, less passive watching of videos, more solving. Even when you are seeing a concept video, very, very important. Pause the video. Whenever I am explaining a question, pause the video. Before seeing my explanation of the question, you try to solve the question yourself. It is extremely important that you try and struggle. There is learning in struggle. There is no learning from passively watching the video. Unless you struggle, you are not going to develop the muscles required for cracking CAT. Okay. Now, another big important, big mistake that a lot of students do is they leave important topics. Many students I have seen ask me in September, can I leave time, speed, distance? No, you cannot leave time, speed, distance. Time, speed, distance is one of the most crucial parts of CAT. You cannot leave it. These arithmetic topics are crucial to your score. There is no point in leaving that. So do not leave important topics, and in fact, do not leave any topic. You should be covering the concepts of all topics. You need not get a lot of practice in all the topics. You need not see a lot of videos, or you need not see a lot of solution videos for all the topics, but you should definitely see the base concepts, and you should know the base formula for each topic as such, and at least 2 to 3 questions from each topic, so that you know what exactly is there in that particular topic. This is minimum requirement. Do not leave any topic. The other mistake that I see is the over-enthusiastic students spend too much time on things that are irrelevant. Number system, they start with complex numbers. They spend a lot of time on complex numbers. Complex numbers has never been asked. Nothing even related to has been asked. Never has complex numbers or anything related to it has been asked in CAT. Remainder theorems have not been asked in CAT for a decade now. 10 years or so. So there are so many irrelevant parts to CAT. There are many parts that even I explain in my videos for the off chance that it might actually come in CAT. Like the highest power of a number in a factorial. There might be one question maybe in every 5 years, but those are low probability events. The high probability events are from arithmetic, they are from algebra, they are from geometry. Those students tend to leave those topics because they are harder, and then spend too much time on things which are fun but not necessary at all. Skimming passages, this is something that I feel that a lot of students do. So I have heard student after student tell, ma'am, I tend to skim through the passage, then I go to the questions and see the options, and when if I'm confused, then I go back to the passage. You do this, neither the passage skimming is of any use, nor is seeing the question of any use. You will be just confused. You should have a very good hold of what is there in the passage. You should know exactly what is there in the passage. You should not have to go back again and again to the passage unless a specific detail is asked. Only if a detail is asked, that how many parts are there in this particular machine. If a specific detail is asked, go back. But otherwise, if you are just skimming through the passages, you are wasting your time. You will learn nothing, you will not understand anything, and you will get most of your answers incorrect. Remember, accuracy is super important, especially in RC. See, there are 4 RC sets, right? You will maybe do 3 RC sets. If you are fast, you will do all 4 of them. Now, in 3 RC sets, if you say your accuracy is say 50% or 40%, if your accuracy is 40%, there are 12 questions. That means that you will get 4 to 5 questions right. 4 to 5 questions right, that is 15 marks. The remaining, say, even if it is 50%, so you will get like 6 questions right and 6 questions wrong. So you will get 18 marks minus 6, you will get a total of 12 marks. This is a catastrophe. This is an absolute catastrophe because this is a very poor score given that you have solved 3 RCs. In RCs, your accuracy should at least be 80%. If you solve 12 questions, you should get at least 9 to 10 of them right and only 2 to 3 of them wrong. If you do not have an accuracy of 80%, you are essentially wasting your time, wasting your effort, wasting your marks. The accuracy is super important here. Otherwise, for every mark that you gain, you are losing marks as such. Accuracy in 80% is the only acceptable accuracy over here. Do not skim passages. It is not the right thing to do. The last part that I will suggest is a mistake that a lot of students make is with LRDI sets. Now, I tell a lot of students that when you are actually solving a mock, you will not be able to solve all 4 LRDI sets. Many students solve between 1 to 2 LRDI sets, which means that 2 to 3 LRDI sets they have not attempted at all. So when I tell them that, okay, you have to actually attempt the set after the mock is over, what they do is they go and directly see the solution. If you see an LRDI set solution, you have learned nothing. The only way you learn how to solve an LRDI set is by attempting it yourself. Unless you try to solve it, unless you struggle, unless you get stuck, there is no learning happening. So do not directly see any LRDI set solution, you will learn nothing. Seeing LRDI set explanation will make sense only if you are stuck somewhere. it will not even make sense if you're not stuck at the particular solution. So when you are actually trying to fill the table and you're like, I can't make any progress, then if you see the explanation, okay, this rule means that this cell is 14, then you will understand, oh, this is what I was missing, and then the explanation will also make sense. If you just read the explanation, you will not be able to make any sense of it. You will be able to gain nothing of it. So do not directly view solutions in DILR. So this is my last advice. These are all the things that I have learned. These are all the mistakes I have seen happen again and again and again and again over the years. I want you to not make this mistake. So please remember in CAT 2024, what is important and what mistakes you should definitely not make. So with that, I'll be signing off. Thank you for tuning in.